Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 72 of the Brighter Horizons podcast. Brain short-circuited for a second, but we are so back. Today, we have an action-packed episode for you guys. A lot to get into because a lot has happened in the past couple of weeks, or I guess the past week now. Past week. We're locked in on the upload. So, past week has been very hectic, and in fact, it feels like I've lived 2 weeks in this past week, which is something that you only learn once you've really gotten into it. Because, like, do you remember David Goggins talking about his 100-mile race? No. Where he said that in 19 hours, he felt like he lived 5 years. Like, he learned 5 years worth of 5 years worth of experience through those 19 hours. You've never heard him say that?
Never in my life.
Okay. Well, point is, when you have a lot going on, you find more in yourself, you learn a lot more. So, a lot of experiences to unpack today. But before we get into the nitty-gritty details of the week, how are we doing, my friend?
You know, it's very funny that you say that, you feel like you've lived, 2 weeks in one? Is that what you said?
Yep.
I feel like I lived 1 day. Nope. Yep, 1 day. I feel like it's been the reverse. This has been single-handedly one of the most, slow-moving weeks of my entire life. And a couple of reasons for that we'll probably get into as we move along with this episode. But, yeah, it's been very interesting. I feel like I've taken a backseat this week to just, or these 2 weeks of, the ending of summer to just relax and pause. We talked about taking breaks in the last episode, and I kind of just put a lot of things on halt just to take a moment to prepare myself for what's going to happen moving forward. And I think it was really necessary for me to do it, but I don't think I necessarily enjoyed it, which, again, we'll get into because I think it's a really interesting dilemma where I feel like I'm doing things that I should enjoy, but I'm not. But yeah, overall, it's been a slow couple weeks for me. Slow week, I guess, since last episode of really just the days aren't passing very quick. They just seem to be so incredibly just I guess all the time just blends together. It all just feels like it's been one really long day since, the last episode. But yeah, I meant clearly you got a lot of stuff to talk about since last week.
I do. Yeah, I have a lot of experiences in the past week, which is interesting because like you said, it's kind of our downtime right now. We're not in school and just relaxing a bit before we get back into the new semester. But man, I don't know. This week was just crazy for no reason. First and foremost, I will say that it started off a bit more leisurely. And one of the reasons why is Wednesday, rather than going to work, I took 1 day off so that I could go out and enjoy some nature. So we went to the beach with the boys, and that was a very great day. Just literally sat in the sun and swam in a lake. And learned how to backflip, too, which I think was pretty crazy.
That is pretty cool.
That was fun because, good God, that actually took me a minute to learn. And shout out to Justin and Levi and Abby and Jacob who sat there with me. And, we were all, pondering. We were, five philosophers sat on this dock just stroking the hypothetical chin here and being like, why is Broski not hitting the backflip properly? Because Justin and Levi landed it within, the first couple attempts. I'm sitting here, flipping. My legs feel like they're going to detach from my body like a Lego character. And I still haven't landed the backflip. And I just couldn't understand why. And honestly, landing it took one big thing, and it was full commitment. With a flip, you can't be 1 foot in the door and 1 foot out. You have to be all in, because if you're halfway in, halfway out, you're not giving it your 100%, and obviously you're just going to flop and fail. But if you're 100% committed without that fear that you're going to mess up, then you go through with the whole motion and it's okay. Obviously, there's a bit more dynamics and physics involved with your jump and the way you swing your arms and stuff like that, which took a bit of adjustment too. But eventually we landed it. Great day at the beach. And honestly, it's so rejuvenating to get out in nature. I think that a lot of people's problems could be solved if they just went outside a bit more, which is, I know it's going to sound very cliche and maybe even annoying or arrogant of me to say this, but go touch some grass, fellas. I promise you it will change your life. I promise. Grass, some water actually is genuinely life-changing, bro. A nice swim in a beautiful lake, because a lot of people aren't going to be from BC who watch this, but if you're from a place where there's a lot of beautiful lakes, go out there and experience that, because a nice swim in a lake, I don't think there's much that can really drain your body of the stress and problems from life than a nice plunge into a lake. But
I respect
it was a
that.
great day.
I've never been a lake or swimming kind of guy, so like personally, it's just not my cup of tea. I'm much more of a spike ball in the grass type of guy.
Well, we would have played spike ball if somebody didn't forget it. Justin.
I doubt he's ever going to watch this.
He's
video,
not
so
going to
never
watch this.
know,
But it's just a funny reference because literally for the entire day, Abby and Kalen were like, bro, I wish we could play spike ball right now. And then they just looked at Justin because he forgot to bring it. But yeah, overall, it was a great day. Great day. Get out and enjoy nature more. That's my big takeaway from that day. It was amazing.
I feel like people just underestimate I don't think necessarily it's nature that does it, in my opinion. I think it's a change of scenery. It's
okay.
Because like what I think a lot of people like their problem is they're going from like one like typically it's a screen, right? You go from your work screen to your home screen being like a TV or something. So typically we associate like nature as being the difference because there is no screens in nature, or at least there shouldn't be. If you're on your phone in nature, right? What are you really doing, right? It's not the nature that's doing it. It's what you're doing. So like, for example, your change of scenery could be going to a friend's place, right? Where you all put the phones away and instead you just talk, right? So I think that what you need to prioritize and what will really make a difference is a change of scenery, changing what you're looking at, when you're looking at it, and what you're actually doing. Because I think that's why, like, nature, the reason it's the biggest one, and I still think that everybody should experience it a lot, is because it's the largest change in scenery from what we have today, right? Because, like, the gap of what nature is and what we most people indulge in on an everyday basis, like that chasm is so massive. Like there's a big difference because like aside from like people whose jobs revolve around in nature, 90% of people working like corporate jobs or anything, even the people that aren't, like if you really ask yourself how many times do you really go into nature just for the hell of it in your day-to-day life? Yeah. It's not often.
No.
So that change of scenery I think really has an impact because you're like, it's like there's so much more to experience than you think. I think it's the same thing as like going to another country. I think that's what going to nature really is. It's like experiencing something that you haven't been experiencing or reminding yourself of what it feels like to experience something, right? Because usually think about it, like when was the last time you went to a lake before this? And like swam in a lake,
It's been quite a while.
Right, so like usually it's like a really long, like for me, I think the last time I swam in a lake might have been like 2 years ago or like 3 years ago. Like a really long time. And obviously, again, not my cup of tea, but regardless, it's usually been such a long time that you genuinely forget what it's like to be in those like situations. So change is really beautiful. Like I think that the ability to look at a different perspective gives you good introspection into like what you're doing now and what you can change and how everything isn't as set in stone as you might think it is.
Yeah, like you need to have a bit more, I think, diversity in your life.
I agree.
That's realistically all I can put it, because if you just keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, it gets very monotonous and boring and annoying sometimes, which is why, A, going out and doing something like that is huge for your mental, but B, you have to kind of evaluate the way things are in your life right now and see what you can adjust to make it a little bit better, or just the tasks you're doing right now, find a way to make them more entertaining. Because, for example, take a job, right? A lot of people work jobs where it's just the same thing over and over and over again, the same robotic task. In fact, a lot of people say, oh, when I'm at work, I turn my brain off. I put it on autopilot so that I just do what I have to do. But what if you worked a job that was so mentally and socially engaging that you're always present? Number one, I tell you, the hours go by a lot faster than you think. And number two, every day would be a mystery, don't you think? And that element of mystery allows you to be more curious about the day. The curiosity breeds an interest in your work, and therefore you will have a much more entertaining work life. Now, I'm obviously fortunate enough to get to work in a place where I talk to so many new people on a daily basis with so many stories, so many different, walks of life, and every interaction is different. So I'm always wondering who's the next person that's going to walk in, because the next person could walk in and think that, a $500 Tissot is an extremely expensive luxury watch. But then at the same time, there's somebody who could walk in with a $35,000 AP on his wrist who thinks that any watch that we have in the store is not as expensive as the one that he has. So regardless of who it is, I'm always interested in what's going to happen next. So if you can find a job or a hobby or volunteer work, some place where every day is a bit different, where something changes, I think that's a huge blessing that you don't really appreciate until you have it.
Yeah, and I think to draw from our own personal experiences, like working at McDonald's, one of the craziest things that I found, like it changed as I like became better at the job, which I hate saying that I worked at McDonald's long enough to actually get good at the job, but I think I was a pretty good employee at McDonald's. Like I was putting down some record times in my opinion.
Same.
And one of the things that I found was I enjoyed the shifts that were busier than the ones that were boring. And the thing is, even on the shifts where I had like all the friends to talk to during the shifts, like obviously they were really fun, but those boring dead shifts where there's just nothing, it's a ghost town. Like when I finished that shift, I'm like, my brain is fried, as in like it was so numbing to just be there. And also when I get off that shift and I go home, I have nothing to say because nothing interesting happened. But those days where there's a million customers and, orders flying off the handle, I'm messing up, but then the, customers are like going crazy. Like, even though in the moment it's like, it's high pressure, it's high intensity, when I leave, I'm like, you know what? I did something today. I got things done and I go home and I have stories to tell.
Mm-hmm.
I think that exciting life is something that we should all chase a little bit more. And we should also try to escape like redundancy. Like, the one thing that I found is a lot of people that work jobs that they enjoy, they don't find it redundant to do the same thing over and over because each time they do it, it brings them joy, right? But sometimes we lead a job where the first year we're working at this job, we feel really happy about it because we're getting paid, not because the work we do is actually interesting or enjoyable, or even like any endeavor in your life, right? If you ask yourself, why am I doing this? Unless it's like, you're feeling pure enjoyment and like love of the game for it, at some point you're going to feel like, I don't want to do this anymore. And that's something I found. I'm a person who's picked up a lot of hobbies over the years. Like I've always loved to dive into like specific things and learn a lot about different subjects and gain certain amount of skills. But then I realized like, why am I really doing this? Like, do I even enjoy this? And one of those things I'd say in my personal experience is learning the guitar. I took guitar lessons and like as a kid, I don't remember any of it to this day because I didn't even enjoy it at all. Like I genuinely had no passion for it. The reason I went is because I wanted to know an instrument. And I was like, oh, well, guitar is cool. I see people online doing it. So why don't I just do it as well? But the truth is I didn't actually find fulfillment in it because it wasn't something I genuinely found interesting. That genuinely brought me happiness. So at some point, practicing just became redundant because even though the idea is cool and some people do it, I didn't find it interesting, and therefore it just becomes boring to do over and over. Creating novelty in things that you do every day, that's how you keep things interesting. That's how you keep yourself happy through the redundant tasks, because we don't get to escape that. Like, obviously you should try to be in a profession where you don't have to face that, but the reality is most people do. So to escape it is basically just to find a way to make it interesting, find a way to make it novel, and every day go in trying to be more curious, right? And find something that's going to make it more exciting.
Yeah, elaborating on your music analogy, think about it. You played mainly, I guess mainly 3 instruments in your lifetime: guitar, piano, and drums. What do you go back to most frequently to play?
See, this is complicated, actually.
Is it?
Complicated.
Is it, though?
The reason I find it complicated is the answer is piano, but that's only because I can't play the drums. If I had an electric drum set, I would play the drums more than the piano. Because I enjoyed playing the drums more than I enjoyed playing the piano.
Yeah, low-key, when I listen to some songs, I'm like, dude, I really want to play
exactly,
the
yeah.
drums.
It's really... I found that low-key, an electronic drum set might be just as annoying as a regular one. Because the sound of an electronic drum set, I don't know if you guys have ever played on one, but it's nice when you're wearing the headphones. But I used to play in this room, and then my dad would be right behind me working. I don't know how he ever survived.
Yeah, that's a great point. I remember that setup. Yeah, that was crazy.
I have no idea because it is so unbelievably annoying. Because with a drum set, it's loud, but it sounds pretty good because it sounds like actual drums. But on this, you're just hearing click clack, click clack, click clack of plastic hitting plastic, basically, or wood hitting rubber, and it's this does not sound good or appealing to the ears at all. So genuinely, it just sounds really bad. But I don't know how we sidetracked here. But the point is, to answer your question, I will say the piano.
Yeah, but the main reason why I said that is when I see you play the piano, I see emotion. For example, You watch La La Land.
Mm.
Immediately learn the song on piano. And now every time when you sit down on that bench and you roll up the piano and I just hear you playing La La Land, even if I'm upstairs in my room and my door is open, I can hear the notes echoing throughout the house. And it's just a very beautiful, it's realistically a symphony.
Yeah.
Right? The way you play, you put your passion into it. And I think that the product of whatever it is you make, the passion you put into it shows. Even for us right now, like when we make this episode, for example, there are episodes where that passion, the fire, may not be as bright.
Episode 1. Don't go check it out. Please do not go check it out.
Sure. But okay, I feel like we need to cut episode 1 a bit of slack just because it's literally the first.
No, but what I'm saying is, like, I think back then we didn't understand what we were doing. Like, we didn't know what we wanted to do.
Yeah.
But you can see, like, I think if there was a way to time lapse the 72 episodes that are out there and you could just watch the progression, or there was like a way to evaluate our energy and like I would want to see the decibel levels of like the first episodes, compare it to like the episodes now, because you'll see there's such a drastic difference from the way that we talked in the first one where we were just like, hey guys, life is beautiful, you know? No, I'm saying like that's how we talked in the first episodes.
No,
right?
that's fair.
Like,
that's fair.
We would literally lean back in the chair, hit him with the, guys, life is pretty good. Like, that's exactly how we talk. Now, leaned in.
That's
like,
funny
actually
because I'm pretty sure that's word for word how I
know,
opened the
because
episode.
when I tell you, I've seen that episode a lot of times. Like, whenever I want to feel happy about myself, I go back and I watch that episode. And it brings me so much joy to be like, guys, how far we've come. How many leaps and bounds we made from where we were. You know?
It's kind of like going to the gym a bunch and then looking back and being like, damn, I was chopped like a year ago. That's like that's the difference, right?
It's
feels
really,
good.
it's so, I feel like nostalgia and like memories are one of the greatest things ever.
Yeah.
And I was going to get into this a little bit later, but I want to dive into it right now because the other day I was so bored out of my mind. Like, guys, when I tell you this has been a travesty of a week for me in the sense of like, I genuinely have just been like just dead. Like, my body's just been dead. Like, I'm so happy to be here right now. When I tell you guys, I could never complain about being in the stew because this is a great feeling.
Yeah.
But this past week has just been really brutal. And it's just been, like, unproductive. But one day I was like, I don't remember what it was for, but I was like, I'm going to go back through my entire camera roll. And I started from the beginning. And I went through my entire camera roll. Now, mind you guys, I don't take a lot of pictures. Like, we could pull up my camera roll right now and see how many pictures. It's not that many. Like, I'm a very, 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 like, bare bones person. Like, I probably have, like, maybe 600 to 800, like, pictures and videos in my phone. And, like, 400 of them are cars. Like, it's really just, like, you know.
Bro probably took, for reference, when we went to Italy, this guy took maybe a cumulative total of, like, 10 pictures while we were there. And
yeah. But then
excluding the cars.
Excluding the car museums, I think I took 8 pictures, including the car museums.
Bro knows the exact number.
Including car museums, I think I took like 230.
There you go.
So it was like, you know, I think I just take pictures of very specific things. If you guys couldn't guess what it might be, it's actually just cars and watches. I found out my entire camera roll is just cars and watches. But
that's crazy.
There are some things that like I took pictures of like back in the day, like my old robotic stuff that like I did in grade 8, and I looked at it and I was like, how far we've come. First off, my super squeaker voice. Like, my days, if you guys heard what I sounded like in grade 8. Wow. Unbelievable. I can't believe I sounded like that. But I just went through all these old pictures and I was like, I think that younger me, and this is like grade 8 me, so this is not that long ago, but I thought to myself, you know, I think younger me would be really proud of who I've become. And that really made me smile. Like, I think we don't cut ourselves enough slack because we compare ourselves to the people around us, you know, people that are in the same position. But if you ask yourself, what would child me think of me right now? And I'm willing to bet you that most of you guys, like, that child would be so proud to be you. Like, don't get me wrong, yeah, they probably wanted to be Batman by this age, or Spider-Man, you know, or Superman, an astronaut, a firefighter. But I think they would look up at you with so much admiration. And the reason I say that is because think about how many times you interact with, like, a kid, right? And, like, even if you haven't shown them anything, like, just having a conversation with a kid and you're relatively put together, a lot of children look up to you, right? Like, that's just naturally how it is. Younger you is really proud of who you've become. And older you is counting on you to keep it going. But that thought of just thinking back to like who I was back then and how I've changed, I was so happy because I was like, I've actually made a genuine difference. I've changed a lot. But unfortunately, it didn't come all good because as I was going through, I found a video of me taking an ice bath because I used to take ice baths every single night. And I did it for, I believe, like 96 days straight. And then I ended it because I think it was when I went to Korea. So that's when like the streak ended. But I went back through the videos and I found like I had a couple of them on my phone and then I had a couple saved on my laptop. So I went and I looked at them and I was like, I made a lot of promises. Like that kid that did those ice baths, like this is a couple years ago. So like it's been some time. Made some promises and I felt like I didn't keep them. And I felt really sad in the moment. Like for a moment I was like, damn, I really wish I would have kept my promises to him. But I think that he didn't know what he really wanted. And now that I've become who I am, if he was in my position, he'd feel the same way. Mm-hmm. We like to hold ourselves to the standard of like who we were and that we need to be the same person always. But I think that being dynamic is a gift. Being able to change, being able to move in life is what's really important, what's really desirable. Because if we're bound by the decisions we make always, you don't really get the chance to explore because it's like a pre-made path for you that was set by the you of yesterday. And that's not really an interesting life, in my opinion, right? Instead, the most interesting life is the one that you get to create. As you move along, you change roads, you change pace. And I don't know, it got me really thinking, like, maybe he would be disappointed, maybe he would be proud, but what does that really mean for me? Like, moving forward, how do I change my, outlook on life based on that? And I don't know. I just thought, like, the past can be such a great teacher, and it can be such a great motivator, but you need to be careful how you use it, because in one sense, I'm very proud of myself, in another, I'm very disappointed. So walking the thin line of being helped by it and being held back by it, it's like a very thin line, and you have to be very careful when walking it.
Yeah, because you set a certain expectation for who you want to be, and when you don't hit that, you feel guilt.
Yeah.
Right? So I think that the biggest thing is finding the ability to walk that fine line, yes. But let's dabble in a bit with the idea of keeping promises that you make to yourself, keeping your word, because that's a huge thing I want to talk about, because I had some experiences this week that really hit that point home for me. And I have to tell all of you guys at home, if you say you're going to do something, do it. Just find a way to get it done. Now, this may mean, walking through fire. This may mean doing things that you've never done before, putting in hours you've never put in before, putting in an effort that you didn't even know was possible. But if you say you're going to do something, do your best to keep that word to yourself. And I can tell you the reason why this is so important. Because I've tasted success and I've tasted defeat in both sides of that conversation. Let's talk about defeat. I've said we're going to be more consistent with the podcast. We're so back. How many times have I said we're so back? How many times have I said we're going to fix our uploading schedule? And it hasn't happened. In those moments, I feel so overcome with guilt that I have negative emotions surrounding the podcast and I don't want to make it, right? It becomes a self-reinforcing downward spiral because every time I think about doing it, I'm like, oh man, I should have hit my goal. I made a promise to all the people at home and I couldn't keep it. Like, I don't even want to do this anymore. And then I'll find any way to avoid doing the work and avoid recording or avoid editing, avoiding the task that I said I was going to do because I failed to accomplish it in a certain timeline. And that guilt just lives with you and it just sucks. But what about success? What about when you make a promise to yourself and you stick to it? You keep your word, whether it's to you or to somebody else. You did what you said you were going to do. How do you think that feels? I can tell you, you will be washed over by the greatest sense of euphoria if you are able to stay true to what you say. And let me give you a very good example of this. So yesterday was one of Eric's last days at the gym for a while, right? We're not going to be working out at the same gym anymore for a little while, and we wanted to make it special. So what did we do? We commemorated it with a workout that is very close to both of us, and it's what we call a Tom Platz leg day. Now, Tom Platz, for those of you that don't know, is known as the quad father of bodybuilding because his legs were so ginormous, and he characterizes turning pain and suffering into fuel to become a better person and pushing yourself and keeping your word. And he's kind of the voice in most people's heads when they're, squatting, sitting there, dying under that last rep. He's the voice that whispers in your ear and says, 5 more. That's the kind of person he was. But a huge component of his workout was a 10 by 10 on squats. So 10 sets of 10 reps. And we're not talking body weight squats, obviously. We're talking heavy barbell squats. And I remember that this workout held a very dear place to both of our hearts because it was the first workout that we did when we went to a proper gym that wasn't a rec center. When we committed to paying more and going to a place where real, die-hard lifters go to be. And we said, we got one shot here, and it was at a Gold's Gym. And we said, we got one day today. What are we going to do? Let's do a Tom Platz leg day. And so it seemed poetic to end off a bit of an arc together with a Tom Platz leg day. So that's what we did. Now, walking into the gym immediately, I was like, okay, we got super pumped on the way, played all of our old songs that we've listened to for years. And we go into the gym, everything's great. Vibes are great. And then we set up all the squat stuff and we're ready to go. And I remember I load up the weight and I get through my first set, easy. Second set, easy. Third set, start to feel it, right? Fourth set, really start to feel it. The amount that you start to crumble under exponentially increases as you keep going, right, with the gym, naturally. You just really start to run out of stamina. And there were many times during that fourth, fifth, and sixth set that I said to myself, you can drop the weight, just do the reps. You can drop the weight, just do the reps. And every time that voice told me to keep, making it easier for myself, one sentence prevailed in my mind. And that sentence was, don't negotiate with yourself. You said you were going to do this, so stay true to your word and do it. So no matter how much my legs buckled under that weight, no matter how much my back felt like it was going to snap in half because I couldn't hold the weight up anymore, I said, just keep going because you said you were going to do it. And I pushed through it, 7, 8, 9, 10. And I finished the 10 by 10, and I literally let out a blood-curdling scream after I was done. I was screaming just, yes, at the top of my lungs. And I gave Eric the fattest dap ever, and we were so happy. And then we went and broke our calves on calf raises after that, which was a nightmare as well. But that taught me so much. And again, like I said, it's one of those experiences where you learn more than how much time you spend under there. On the outside, it was maybe an hour, hour and a half, but in my mind, that felt like forever. Every set felt like ages under that bar. Minutes become hours, and it's just brutal. But I sat there through every rep saying, you said you were going to do it, so do it. And once I finished it, the smile on my face, words will never be able to describe how happy I felt then. So, honestly, if you can stay true to what you say, you become a very different person and you feel extremely happy.
I think that, it's funny that you bring it up because recently I've been doing my rerun of Suits. And I actually just finished it today.
Damn,
so,
okay.
I'm going to say this on record. Obviously after, I don't want to drop spoilers, low key.
Just explain it in a way that's not spoiler.
After the inevitable big event happens that everybody knows and the show kind of just tapers off and becomes really, really bad, I think it has one of the best endings I've seen. Like I really like the ending. Like it was just really nostalgic, and I really really loved it. I thought it was really good, and I don't think people would disagree with me on that. But like I just wanted it to be known. If you guys aren't watching through all the seasons, I would say push through it to get to that last episode because it's really 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 good. But what I did want to tie in is one of the biggest things in Suits you'll see is favors. They all call in favors at every single possible moment.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that an IOU is one of the biggest favors that, or like things that people ask for, is like, you owe me one. The reason that they're willing to do that is because they're so certain that these people will stick to their word. Like that's what's crazy is how important your word actually is. I think people don't quite get what trust really means. I think one of the best feelings you can have is when you tell somebody, trust me, no questions asked, they say yes. And just done. That's one of the best feelings you can have because you know for a fact that that person's not going to, abuse, manipulate, or lie to you because you know them so well, right? I think that being a person of your word builds trust with other people, first and foremost, secondly, but first and foremost, it builds trust with yourself, right? And this is what you've been talking about, right? You positively reinforce who you are when you stick to your word. Because what kind of a person doesn't stick to their word?
Mm-hmm.
That's, I don't think that any of us want to be that person. You don't want to be the person that when you say, hey guys, I'm going to do this, somebody else does it because they know that you won't. That's not the type of person that you want to be. You want to be the person that says, I'm going to do it, you end up doing it. And you want to be the person that people trust. When you say, I'm going to do it, I know that he's going to do it. Instead of them saying, I know he's not, you want people to say, I know that, they're going to do it. There's a saying that, a man who is not of his word is no man at all. And I don't know if anybody said that, but like I've said it to myself and I think somebody else has to have said it because like I say it to myself and I feel like somebody else must have thought of it. But if not, I'll take credit for it for now.
Yeah.
And, to take the gender out of it, I feel like there's no honor in not keeping your word, right? To yourself especially. You're actively, negatively, like, looking at yourself in a lens where you don't even believe yourself. Imagine that. Think about how bad it feels when somebody else says, I don't believe you. When you say, like, hey, I'll do it, and they say, I know you won't. Like, I think we all know that terrible feeling of somebody not believing in us. But how much worse is it when you don't even believe in yourself? When you sit there and you say to the mirror, I'm going to do it, and then you know in your heart you won't. That is one of the most, that's a travesty, in my opinion, to wake up and not trust yourself because you have proven to yourself that you're a liar. That's scary. That's something that I wouldn't wish upon anybody.
And then what happens when you fall into that pit where you can't trust yourself to do even the simple things?
Exactly.
That's when you start to get depressed. That's when anxiety takes over. That's when all the negative aspects of your headspace get in the way of doing things.
It's because you normalize giving up. You normalize lying. You normalize not being real with yourself.
You internalize that as part of your character.
Exactly. And I think that people don't understand that it's beyond just reaching your goals. But when you're unable to be true with yourself, it leads to other things. The reason that people can effectively deal with things like their emotions is because they're honest with themselves about how they feel. The truth is, in today's day and age, the reason people have such a hard time dealing with emotion and their problems, especially like the more like spiritual, emotional, fairy tale style problems, as opposed to, the concrete ones, is that they can't even tell it to somebody. They can't tell the truth because they're so wrapped up in not believing, in not having trust. And the truth is, as much as I believe, yes, go to other people, talk about your issues. No problem is better solved on its own than with somebody that you care about. But if you can't find anybody, you should be able to find somebody you trust in the mirror. And if you take that one person away, the one person you are always going to be with, being yourself, what does that leave you with? And the truth is, if you can't be honest with yourself, I don't think you can be honest with other people.
100% agree.
Right? You practice how you play. It's the, most known line in sports. Trust starts from you. When you build the trust of believing in yourself, people will start to recognize it. If you really think about it, like, why do people believe, like, when somebody, take a bluff, for example, why do bluffs work? Like lying. It seems redundant for me to ask this, but, like, The reason it works is because you make the other person believe that you're actually going to do it because you're so confident about it, right? You have so much confidence about everything working out that you can easily bluff. The people that can't bluff are the people that, one, good Samaritans that don't like to lie. Shout out to you guys. And I think I genuinely fall in that category personally. I actually think I genuinely suck at bluffing at some times, but like I'm not a good liar. That's why in like board games, I found this out recently. I suck at lying in board games.
Really?
Like I really cannot do it. Like I always used to think that I was good at it, but then like I was playing board games the other like weekend and I was like, I don't like this. Like I just don't like lying to people.
What were you playing?
I think we were playing Mafia.
There's no way you're selling Mafia 'cause you don't want to lie.
Nowadays, like it's different now. Like who I am now. Back in the day, I was a deceitful boy. I was a deceitful child. I would lie about being a potato farmer all the time, and I would win. But now I'm a changed man. Like I find honesty in myself.
Changed potato farmer.
Yeah, like I'm an honest potato farmer nowadays. But back to the point being that the reason that bluffing works is because you genuinely believe that you're going to be able to do it. The people that can't bluff are people that aren't confident that things are going to work out. So trust, people believing you, comes from you having the confidence to show them. And where does that confidence come from? It comes from you having trust in yourself. What is confidence? It's self-assurance. It's believing that you can do it. That's literally what the meaning of trust is, or of confidence is. And it's built on the foundational basis of trust, of being able to sit down and say, I know I'm going to do it, right? I said I'm going to do it. I'm going to keep that word. I think the reason that I have seen success in university is because when I've sat down and I've said, hey, I need to do this, and I genuinely mean it, I think I've reached those points. Like I've done the things that I said I would do. And the least fulfilling points have been the times where I've fallen short of that. And it bores a hole in your brain. Like it definitely does. It digs its way into your skull and says like, hey, remember the time that you didn't. And that's really scary, And I appreciate you bringing this up because it really ties back to that whole like journey of going through my photo, like my camera roll. Because seeing that video of me taking the ice bath, and I said like, I got in the tub on the day one, and I was like, today I read Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. I just finished the book. And I saw what he did with his life, and I'm tired of, giving myself excuses and not working to my full potential. And I went on a monologue. And every day that I did an ice bath, I would talk. It was my journal where I would talk about what did I do today? What am I going to do tomorrow? And sorry, I hit Mike, but I did that every day. And I was like, looking back on it now, I forgot how healthy it was that I did that. And the thing is, while I did it, I kept my word. For those 90 days straight that I until the point of I didn't have a choice, every single day, I got in that ice cold bath. And the thing is, I could see it on my face every time when I like took the first step in and I stood there for a second, my legs in, and I was just like, and I was like, I could see on my face that I don't want to do this. I saw that. And then I was so proud of myself that I still did it every time. Like the smile I have on my face right now is because in that moment when I could see myself refuse to give up. And that is one of the most beautiful things that I've seen in my life because it showed me that I can trust myself, that I can believe in myself, and I should.
There you go. That's literally it right there. I said, what did I tell you? Yeah. When you are able to keep your word, the greatest feeling of euphoria will wash over you. And just the smile in those past couple of frames of this episode where you said, I was so happy that I stuck to it. That's it.
I'm smiling to the point right now, like my cheeks hurt. Does that happen to you? Quick question.
It does, yes.
See, this is the thing. I don't know if this is like a us thing, like it's genetic, the way our faces are shaped, because like some people don't have that. And like, I've been feeling it a lot lately, which is something I'm happy about.
It's a good thing.
I've been smiling a lot. But yeah, I think that idea, be honest, because it goes a long way. And it all starts with you. Like, I think we all put so much pressure on doing it for other people, but you got to start with yourself. Mm-hmm. Because if you can't do it for yourself, you can't expect to do it for other people.
Yeah, and my thing is like, the real question then after all that discussion about how important it is what would be concrete steps to keep your word to yourself? And I would say, in my eyes, there's four ways that I did it. And these are four things that I came up with based on my experience, mainly underneath that squat bar, because good God, that was difficult. Very difficult. Like, I knew I was going to do all 100 reps, but I tried to bring it down and make it easier by either making the weight lighter or some sets not doing 10 reps and just adding those on later in an 11th set or something. But I didn't want to cheat. I wanted to do what I said. So these 4 steps or rules are what I would use to keep more promises to myself based on what worked for me in that moment. So step 1 is to stop negotiating with yourself. Very simple. You can't let the mind make things easier because that's what it's going to do. That's what it's programmed to do. The mind is programmed to make your life easier, and it will seek comfort at every opportunity it can. So don't let it win and do what you said you were going to do. Don't leave any room for negotiation. Everything you said is what you're going to do. Rule number 2, remember why you started. If you can remember the reason why you began all this suffering in the first place, because there is a reason behind it all, right? No matter what you're going through, there's a reason why you're doing it. Clearly, it has some sort of benefit to it. You're not just some masochist who's suffering for no reason, okay? You're doing it for a reason. Remember that. And if it's working out, why did you start? Or if it's getting good grades, why are you getting these grades? If you're going to this job, why are you doing it? That why has to be the focal point of that journey. And if that why is strong enough, the how becomes very clear and giving up is just not an option. Rule number 3, focus on one step at a time. I found that during that 10 by 10, if I sat here thinking, oh my God, I have 7 sets of 10 reps left, my legs would start to get weak on that rep immediately, just because how daunting the task is starts to weigh on your mind. Just that thought process of, oh my God, I have so much more. But if I sat there and focused on the set that I was in, and let's say I hit the 7 rep mark, rather than saying, oh, I still have, 6 sets left, I say, okay, let's just focus on this set. I only have 3 reps left. That's easy. And I can almost feel the strength magically reappear in my bones. It's a very, very surreal feeling, and it's something you'll only understand if you really try it. Just chunk things down, break it down into simple steps, because if you can just do the first step, taking the second step becomes easier. And something David Goggins says all the time when he's running hundreds of miles is, can you take one more step? Simple as it is, the answer is often yes. And that's what's so powerful about it. It's easy to do. And lastly, rule number 4, reflect on your success. What I'm doing right now is giving you a full recount of my story of doing something simple, realistically. It's not like I climbed Mount Everest or ran a 100-mile race, albeit a difficult workout. It's just a workout at the end of the day. And it's something that, again, will be lost in the blend of time and over the course of my life with the thousands of other workouts I'm bound to hit. Yet, I sit here giving it this much weight. Why? Because of how much you can learn just from that. Just that experience alone, how much it taught me. I was able to talk this entire episode pretty much about just that one day, just that one experience. You learn so much when you succeed at something you said you were going to do. So learn to reflect on it.
I think to tie back, step number 1, like don't negotiate with yourself, or don't let yourself don't negotiate with yourself. I think more people need to embrace the 3-2-1 mindset of I don't remember where I saw this video. It might have been Prince EA. Shout out to him for back in the day making that educational content. But it's just whenever you see a daunting task, hit it with the 3-2-1 and do it. Right? I think the main thing it's supposed to avoid is procrastination, but I think it really can help in this situation too, of just go. Stop thinking about it and just do. We spend so much time planning, and that's where I think we lead to the negotiation, because you're once you're looking at it, you're oh, well, this might be a slightly more optimal way, but the optimal way is that it's just a little bit easier, and maybe it doesn't acquire quite the same goal that you were looking for, but it's just good enough, right? For you, if you had sat there and thought I could do 9 reps and then just do 1 at the end, well, it accomplishes the same thing. But in reality, in your mind, it doesn't, right? So embracing that 3-2-1 mindset of just go, I think is brilliant. And I think it would make such a huge impact on like what people genuinely, or how people can genuinely keep their words. But I think it's time to dive into a very, 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 very special segment.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's kick it off with our weekly woohoos. We got a sound effect.
We did get a soundboard, or we got the soundboard working, guys.
Yippee! All right, anyways.
Take it away.
So, weekly woohoos this week. I'm going to keep it short because we've already used a lot of time today. So, I got one story for you fine folks on the internet today. Okay? And it is about a competition called the Plastic Cup. Yes, you heard me right. Now stick with me, okay? So, the Danube River. It is one of the biggest rivers in all of Europe, okay? And this river has been consistently polluted, all right? Shocker. Humans pollute the planet, okay? But the main focal point of this is how do we actually combat this? And this is a very creative strategy that a organization came up with to help combat some of the pollution problems in this river, okay? So just for some context, the Tisa River actually drains into the Danube, and these two rivers together make up a huge portion of the plastic waste that goes into the Black Sea. Okay, so this is where a lot of garbage and stuff tends to accumulate and form massive garbage patches and really cause devastating effects to the environment. So it started off with just 3 groups of volunteers, but now it has expanded to 15 groups of volunteers. But this organization essentially made a race where teams assemble floating DIY boats from plastic waste that they collect from the rivers. So plastic bottles, any, flat pieces of plastic that they have, they turn it into rafts and boats. And then they sail on these boats that they made through the river, okay, and collect garbage and plastic. And then they sort them on their boats into the various places, and then these giant rafts will come by for their designated team with their color-coded bag and say, here, give us the trash, and then they'll weigh it, and then the team who collects the most trash at the end wins, like this hypothetical trophy, essentially, okay? And all the people who do this are volunteers. They don't get paid to do this. Like, it's just for fun. And you would think, oh my God, it's just a couple of people floating on boats. Nah, bro. These guys have cleaned 450 tons of plastic from that river since 2013. So over the course of a decade, they've cleaned over 450 tons, which is insane. And their plan for the next decade is to clean out 1,250. So tripling their goal, essentially. So seeing that effort of what happens when we can come up with a creative solution is just mind-boggling to me. And obviously, I'm sitting here thinking, like, that sounds like fun. Like, don't get me wrong. Nobody wants to be sitting around grabbing garbage. But, like, think about if you and your friends were just on a bunch of boats floating around the river trying to grab random stuff. Does that not sound like fun?
You know what I'm thinking? Like, if they had a cash prize for the winning team, like, the amount of people that would do this. And the thing is, the cash prize doesn't even be massive. You know what you and your friends would do for, like, $50, you know? So, like, when I tell you that you put a small cash prize that's cheaper than it would ever take to actually, like, build infrastructure to clean the rivers itself, and you just have people do this, that's amazing. That's one of the coolest things I've ever heard. Like, that is so awesome to hear.
I read the headline for that story, and I was like, are we serious? That's amazing. And I just read the story immediately. I was like, oh my God, that's awesome. And the thing is, sometimes they find things that are not just plastic. Like, for example, one time they found barrels upon barrels of crude oil sunk at the bottom of the river. And they just yeeted it up, and we're like, all right, cool. Crazy.
That's crazy.
You never really know what you're going to find.
That is true.
But it is so resourceful and beautiful what we can accomplish when we come together to do something like that.
Yeah.
And to think that they're all volunteers, they're not even getting paid.
That is amazing. That's even crazier.
Fantastic.
But, like, yeah. See, like, I would do this. Like, that's what I'm saying. Is, like, give me a couple buddies and we'll hop on and build a raft. Like, that's so cool. Yeah. I actually love that.
And then the beautiful thing is all the trash that gets collected from this river gets turned into reusable materials. Like, one big thing is they turn it into kayaks that can be used for further events that happen on the river. So very cool event happening
That's
over there.
amazing.
And this mainly takes place in Hungary. So
Oh,
the
okay.
river kind of flows through a
Yeah.
couple of countries, but Hungary is where majority of this event takes place. So yeah, kind of a cool little story for you guys today.
That is a weekly woohoo indeed.
Indeed, a weekly
That is a
woohoo.
weekly woohoo.
So yeah, fantastic section today. But I think you know what time it is.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for sticking around to the very end of episode 72 of the Brighter Horizons podcast. But before you guys go, you already know what time it is. It's time for Quote
Of
the
week.
Harem.
Quote of the week. I'll start tomorrow is just another way of saying I gave up today. And the crazy thing is, I came up with that quote.
Really?
That quote is
pretty
not
fire.
something I saw online. Maybe some philosopher has said it before. I'm not going to sit here and claim that I'm the first person to have ever said it, but I wrote that down in my notes because I thought about it. And I remembered that the main thing that reminded me of this or made me think about it this way was the podcast. Because I remember one time I was making a TikTok and then I said, I'll finish it tomorrow. And then I remember getting out of the shower that night saying, you're really just going to give up today and put that task forward to tomorrow? And that guilt was enough for me to walk back downstairs in the middle of the night and edit the rest of that TikTok and go to sleep. Nobody saw that effort. Nobody sat there and gave me an applause. Nobody gave me a cookie or a medal for doing that.
You're kind of getting that now. Because everybody's going to be like, wow, this guy's so impressive. But
Yeah, but like I feel like Jake Peralta now because that's double credit, you fool. See, he gets the reference.
true. Yeah.
But in general, in the moment, there was no spotlight on me. It was kind of just my own thing. But keeping that promise to myself and just doing it today because I said I was going to do it today means more than you could ever know. And Brian Tracy has a fantastic clip of himself saying, program your mind with one simple phrase. Anytime a task hits the desk on what you need to do, 3 words should come to mind. 4 words should come to mind. I do it now. I do it now. Do it now. Do it now. Do it now. I do it now. That should be what your mind is programmed to think. And if you can just keep that programming, every day you accomplish more. And you leave rest up for debate. And you know you're going to be successful because every day you don't give up on yourself.
And with that, we come to the very end of episode 72 of the Brighter Horizons podcast. Thank you guys so much for sticking around to the very end. Now remember, your word is more important than just being words. It's a promise that you make to yourself, the people around you, and how can you expect people to trust you when you don't even trust yourself? True success stems from being able to wake up and believe that you are the right person to complete the right task that you said you would do. Ensure that you stay honest with yourself, stick to your word, and make sure you live a positive life, y'all. Peace out.